Okay then. Hi there and welcome to the next tutorial on making that very first room, and so far we have covered the snap to grid, which I hope you've all got checked on. Okay then, let's start by, well, I presume you've got Hammer open. Click the block tool and on the top view, which is this view here, click and drag a box, doesn't matter the size, and once done hit enter. Okay, now select the camera and in the top view click and drag so that the red line looks onto your box, and we can now see it in our 3D view. To look about the 3D view you'll need to fiddle about with your mouse. It's just the two mouse buttons left and right, and you use them both to navigate around your room. Right. The arrow to this tool, the select tool, will select our box, and first off, before we do anything, grid size is 64, so what I'll personally work on is 8, so we'll reduce it by clicking this button, and as you can see it's 8. Now, doesn't matter which one, the side or the front, we will click and drag our box down till it says 8 units. Yep, that's 8 units. Okay, so, well, we've got a floor. The texture, don't bother about the texture now, we'll cover that. Now let's start making the walls. To make walls, we want to select our box tool again, or our block tool should I say, and zoom in here in the top view and click and make it 8 units width and 128 units long, and I'll cover that why I use these preferences in a wee bit. Also, in the side or the bottom, doesn't matter which, we don't want it in our floor, we want it just sitting on top of our floor, and that's why snap to grid is locked on, so that we don't have a gap there for a leak. And I also use 1 to 8 units high. There we go, and hit the enter. So now we've got a block which you can see, which is 128 high, 128 across, so it's a square and it's 8 units wide, so the width there is 8 units. Now select it, and then now select the block tool. The reason why I selected it was so that when I drag in the top view to make my next one, which is going to be 128 again, and hit return, it already gets the height value. Whereas if I selected the floor, which is highlighted, then the block tool and drag out, as you can see it's not setting the height value. Whereas if I do it this way, select that, then go on to drag out, it sets the height value. Anyway, I'll continue. So basically I just want to keep doing this all the way around. 128 by 128. The reason why I use 128 is because it's easier to texture when we come to that part. Well, that worked out perfect for the size of the floor. I'll just expand the floor. You can expand anything by, well, the arrow tool, and you select it and you can modify it. The reason why I wanted to modify the floor now is because, well, look, we've got our 128, but the next block is not going to be 128, but that doesn't matter too much. Just bits like this just fill in. So we've got a wall that covers the length of the floor. Right, and we'll just continue going right round your floor until you've got 4 walls up. I'm going to pause this now and completely fill this floor. In fact, no, I'll show you another way, as we've got one side done. A quick way of doing it. In your 3D view, if you select, hold down control and click on each wall, and then in the top view, if you hold down shift and then the left mouse button and drag out, let go of the left mouse button, now let go of shift, and as you can see it's duplicated that wall. So now all we need to do is move this to line up on the other side of our floor, like so. And if you look in the camera view, there we go. Right, so now I'm going to pause the video and continue doing this, and I'll get back to you. Okay, so by now you should hopefully have a room like this. It might not be the same texture, but it doesn't matter at this point, just as long as you've got the 4 walls and the floor. And also that you're trying to work it in 1:8 units by 1:8 units, which you can see I have been doing. 1:8, 1:8, 1:8, and also the height is 1:8 all along as well, as you can see. 1:8, so it's basically made up of squares. Apart from, well, the floor was too big, so it couldn't fit another 1:8 block in, so I just filled that in with a smaller block. Doesn't matter the size. The reason for this is the texturing, and I'll quickly show you the texturing as this is coming to the end of the tutorial. Right, so texture, just browse any texture. I'll grab this random one, and this is why I use 1:8 by 1:8. Make sure align to world and face is ticked. So we've got our texture selected in here, so right click on one of the blocks, and as you can see it's painting a texture, but it doesn't look quite right as what it is there. So what we do is click that and hit, in the justify tab, hit fit, and as you can see it aligns the texture perfect. Now to save us going round and going fit, fit, what you can do is, while you're in the texture and this face edit sheet is up, click one of the textures that you've already made fit, and then just right click all the way around, and it will apply the fit automatically. And another example is, I'll select this texture, it basically copies the texture values, see, and just right click, but I want this texture, so right click all the way around, and as you can see that's why I use 1:8 by 1:8, because the textures fit very nicely and it saves a lot of hassle. I'll quickly add something else. I'll add this window here. Also, when you're adding a new texture, just hit the fit just to make sure that it was fit nicely. I know it's not the same kind of wall or anything, but it's just to give you the basic idea. I'll also quickly texture the floor. The floor doesn't matter if it's 1:8 by 1:8, just make a floor a floor. This ceiling a ceiling. We'll give it a concrete floor. This floor will do. So we've got our concrete texture here, and just right click and it will apply automatically. And for that I would not hit fit, as it would make it, well, in fact I'll show you. If we select that and hit fit, it's not a very good example, but just I wouldn't advise it, and I'll show you an example later on. That's pretty much that for this tutorial. We're not going to add a ceiling just yet, as we're going to add another room and a corridor linking to the room in the next tutorial. So I hope you enjoyed this and learned something from it, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.